Lapse the steering wheel here. Give me the steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
Your leg, mate, please. Your leg.
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph. Did you hear me? From our radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track. Down that mistake.
Boys and girls, your attention, please.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 927. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
A.K.A. Negative Camera. You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
Stop yelling at Todd.
Don't yell at me. Tonight, for your kind consideration, we're going to talk about Formula One news because there is news in Formula One, but always before doing that, I have to introduce my co-host, and that means I got to go all the way to the right coast of our nation, nestled near our nation's capital. You know her, you love her, the lovely, the redoubtable Grace. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. It's it's Monday.
Yeah.
It wasn't too cold outside, not really warm either, but
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's March.
Yeah. Well, I can't lie, Grace. I'm under the weather. I got some sort of like bug going around. At one moment I'm shivering and freezing. The next morning I'm burning up, and it's lingered on for 4 days. So if I seem a little off tonight, folks. Yes,
Just fall out of the. Wow.
I know.
You don't even have small children in the house anymore to blame.
No, I don't. When they're little ones, they're like petri dishes. But now, my daughters are grown, and I'm like, wow. And like last night was brutal. I was waking up every 30 minutes. It was like, it's terrible. So I'm going on no sleep.
That's best for podcasting. Terrible
It's
for you,
perfect.
but excellent for the rest of us to listen to the
So
show.
I
Right?
guess what I'm saying is #no filter. All right.
That's
So
great.
and I apologize up front, but
The fever statements that are from Todd will be great for everybody else to listen
ah,
to.
the hell with all you guys.
Yeah,
I don't care.
I hate this show. Why are we doing it?
Right. Oh my. So anyway, we're going into 927, but you know what they say, Grace? You got to play hurt.
Always. You
Gotta
just
play hurt.
Power through it, man.
Yep. Got to play hurt, just like Mock is.
That's right.
Does anybody have anything for Mock? No, they don't.
They don't so far.
No. Hey, and just to let everyone know, and I know if Grace didn't shame you enough last year that you should be watching MotoGP, that if you haven't started, the season just started.
Yeah,
okay.
this past weekend.
And it just started this past weekend and in Thailand, and lots of changes. And so now's the time for you to jump on board.
Yeah, and here in the States it's being carried by Fox. So
Yeah. Grace, I was watching it as you were this weekend.
yeah.
And I think one of the things, and I don't take this the wrong way, folks, but I think one of the things, see, here's my caveats already up front.
Yeah.
Here's my mea culpa. I think one of the reasons I really like MotoGP is it's not as bloated and overdone as F1. It's more like the old days of F1 where it's just pure organic racing, hardcore motorsport fans. Did you see that shaky, sort of hastily assembled podium they had for world champions? Got up there, that's kind of rickety, and it just reminds me of like the days when James Hunt would get up there with the wreath, and it's just, I like that organic sort of non-overblownness, if you will.
And they're clearly they're their post-race room,
Yeah.
In Formula One, it's all very fancy. There, especially in Thailand, it was just clearly a temporary building that was held up by some plywood. Right?
Yeah, they
So
probably
must
just
have
took
gone
the
local IKEA.
they probably just took the mops and the cleaning agents out of there like 3 days before, and
That's right.
yeah.
So, I mean,
I
yeah,
like
think if you watch the difference between their livery launch versus Formula One's livery launch, you'll be like, yeah, I see. There's a difference.
there's a difference. Yeah, there is. But I enjoy it. Why is my hat all weird?
It's also not feeling well today.
Yeah, it's under the weather, clearly. So anyway, we'll get into more MotoGP in a minute. But I don't want to, ruin anything you're going to talk about. So let's talk about Formula One. There was news this weekend or this week. Why? Because it hosted its test, its first preseason test. Testing
Is it really news? I mean,
not really.
Happens. What can we really like draw from it?
Well, I'm going to talk about that.
I know, but I love that everybody's like, testing, it really matters, but it doesn't matter. And I'm going to caveat things, but it's important and you should pay attention, but don't pay too much attention.
I know. Yeah, it's the old adage, oh, you can't tell a damn thing from testing. And as I've said the last few years, if you're a team, you can.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because they have the data and they know the fuel they're running.
Yeah.
And they know what's going on there. But I will say that the only thing I take away from all of this is that McLaren continues to be awesome. So I look forward to what else you took away from testing.
Well, I will tell you. I'll share that with you. But
Let's do it.
They had 3 days in Bahrain. And like all testing from previous seasons, it's a bit of a gamble to pick who you feel is the quickest team. A little difficult, but none of the teams will show their full capacity or full pace of their car's performance. Of course, they always hold their cards close to their vest, as they should. But all the teams know how to test, and they know the kinds of programs needed to vet an F1 car, and they have a pretty good idea who might be quick and who might be slightly off the pace. I think the other teams know that about each other. Do they know definitively between Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and Mercedes who's going to be the outright, fastest? No, but they can definitely tell you it's going to be between those 4, and not stake F1, right? So yeah, I mean they've got an idea. And the one thing I did is, and maybe you at home did this too. One thing that you can tell from testing is to watch the onboards. And I know Paul does this, but if you watch the onboards, you really can see how much steering input they're putting into that car in slow, medium, and high-speed corners, how it's behaving. If they're really seesawing on that, then maybe the car is unbalanced, the back end. Obviously, there's different fuel levels, tire compounds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And it was cold.
It was, yeah, it was chilly. So difficult and rained one of the days, too.
Correct. Right.
And so it's difficult to know, but some of the cars seem pretty planted. Others, like the RBs, were really hustling that car. It was really difficult. You could tell with Yuki and Isaac Hajar. So, yeah, that was one thing I was looking at was the onboards. The teams all have programs for each session over 3 days. And consider... And if you think about this and Grace, I know you've had projects that have been programmatic in your approach to a project. I know that's very much in your wheelhouse and what you do on a daily basis. And I do too. So if you have a program that you're going to run, those programs are intended to measure and harvest data and measure data in a very quantitative way about how that car is going to perform, and they're really specifically measuring a lot of things. Now, if there's a mechanical issue or a damage to a nose cone or suspension, imagine anything, it's going to throw that schedule off, and it can be detrimental if they have to spend their time running down a mechanical failure, or in the case of Haas with ripped off bodywork, right? And that can throw the program off track. So you spend more time trying to fix issues than you are harvesting the data that you really wanted / needed. And that can make it difficult. And I'm sure some of you listening have, at work, maybe there's a programmatic a project you're working on, and all of a sudden you run into an issue and you spend a lot of time on that, and it really throws you off and you can't make the progress you wanted. It's very much the same for the teams, right? And so that's always one of the difficult things when a program takes a hard left or hard right, when you're really there to specifically measure certain data.
And you have such a small amount of time, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Right? So you really are like, okay, we can do 8 things, and then you're like halfway through thing 4, and right, like Haas, you lose all your body work, and so now you're like, okay, do we keep going with 5? Like, how do we deal with it? And it's going to throw off everything because that was no way in your card.
And I'm sure the teams, they're very, very smart people. Very smart men and women at that team, and all teams really. And I'm sure they have contingency, and they've ranked those programs that, if we have issues and if we have to ditch a certain program or a certain amount of program, we're going to not do this, because these are paramount. I'm sure they have a hierarchy, but still, they want to do it all. They want to run the entirety of the program as designed. For that, Carlos Sainz set the overall fastest lap over the 3 days. Now, I don't think anyone feels that that's a sign of Williams' domination in 2025.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But might it suggest that James and team could be moving off the back end of the grid in favor of that 5th through 10th, right?
Yes.
And so that's what I could glean from that. I don't think that Williams is going to be, kicking the air out of everybody. I think.
No, but they're not stick either.
Yeah, right. So they may not be plastered at the back of the grid either, which by any measure, I think, I don't want to oversell that, but let's just say they're running somewhere between 8th and 12th, right?
Right.
That, in my opinion, is a huge move for that team. Huge, right?
And even the idea that not like just in my heart.
Yeah,
that
right.
I want Williams to be successful. Like, they can actually have success. I think that is, and we've seen teams that some teams never kind of get out of that middle space, but to not be, don't be Alpine, right? Like, have some real progress, keep making that progress, and this has been great for Williams. If people have, I didn't watch when Williams was successful. It was just in my heart that I wanted them to be successful, right? And so I think if the will of fans, they would have been successful a long time ago.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think just the way they talk about it, they carry themselves, the way James carries the team.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of good potential there. But you're right. They're not gonna win a race this season. That's kind of crazy unless it's like it pours down rain and everybody falls off the island and
it's attrition.
that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do believe, Grace, I think most people would love to see that sort of McLaren story for Williams.
Oh yeah. I think so.
They got a Mercedes in the back. Let's bring it on. Let's do what Zach did with that team. Right. And James is probably the guy to do it. So is there something to be said about the fastest lap overall during testing? Well, I tried to ask our interns, Atticus and Huxley, to compile some numbers for me. It was beyond their capabilities.
They're pretty busy today.
Yeah, they were. So I had to do it myself. And I went back and looked at the fastest lap times in F1 preseason testing. Okay. Not from last year, Grace, but for the last 10 years. How's that for research?
No wonder Atticus and Huxley were like, no, we're not helping you.
We're not doing that.
You want us to do what?
I turned over a lot of rocks for our listeners.
They had mani-pedis today. They ain't got time for this.
No, they don't have time to do this. But I made time for our listeners because they deserve to know. Can we discern anything from testing, right? Mm-hmm. So here's your fast lap. You're going to love this one. 2014, and this is in aggregate over all testing during that season. Remember, some of these seasons had a lot of testing, had 2 testing sessions of 3 or 4 days, right? Right. But the overall fastest in aggregate, all testing during those years. In 2014, it was a Williams driven by your friend and mine, Felipe Massa. Super nice guy, that Felipe.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Almost world champion, Felipe Massa.
Almost, yeah. Yeah, so Felipe set the fastest time at Bahrain with a 1:33.258 in 2014. Clearly, that didn't mean a damn thing in 2014. All right. In 2015, it was Nico Rosberg in a Mercedes.
Okay.
In 2016, this is what gets kind of funny, and I'm going to tell on Ferrari here in a minute. And everybody knows I'm a Ferrari fan, but 2016 and 2017 was Kimi Räikkönen in a Ferrari. 2018 and 2019 was Sebastian Vettel in a Ferrari.
Oh, so much promise.
So much promise. 4 years of sheer domination in testing by Ferrari.
Those preseason games are really working for Ferrari.
Oh, they were.
Like, this is our year. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel it.
Then you got 2020 Valtteri Bottas in a Mercedes,
definitely.
right?
Yep.
And then you have a rash of Red Bull. You have Max in 21, Max in 22, Sergio Perez in 23, and then last year, back to form, Ferrari, Charles Leclerc.
Their season ended up better, though.
It did end up better. So there's a little more legit. So out of that, what can we just, well, Nico Rosberg 2015, that was a championship winning car. Then you had 4 Ferraris, and then you had a Mercedes in 2020. That was a championship-winning car. Then you had the resurgence of Red Bull from 2021 to 2023.
Yeah.
Right? And then Charles Leclerc last year. Look, Ferrari dominated the fastest preseason times from 2016 to 2019, showing strong single-lap pace. But let's be honest. Ferrari has a way of snagging headlines. All right. None of those years were banner years for the team, but they like to snag a headline and, hey, we're fastest in testing.
I mean, again, right? Like, you got to ride that whenever it happens.
Well, sure.
But yeah, they love grabbing headlines, whether it's with fashion or people dancing up the side of a building or fastest lap at, Barcelona,
whatever. Mercedes was fastest in 2015 and 2020. That highlighted the hybrid air dominance that they had. Red Bull topped 21 through 23, aligning with their rise of dominance in the new ground effect era, right?
I think for 25, I think much like I claim Carlos Sainz also, I think Ferrari can also claim some of that Carlos Sainz magic for the Ferrari column,
Yeah.
A little shine on you guys too, right?
Right. If it wasn't for us, we prepped Carlos to be fast.
It's just like, Adrian Newey, right? Like, I designed that car even though I'm not there anymore.
Right,
so it takes a few years before my shine wears off.
Right.
So Ferrari, you still got a little Carlos Sainz magic. It's good.
What the heck? What does become interesting in testing for me is the amount of laps completed by each team.
No, that's,
Yep. And interestingly, folks, Red Bull, who was usually towards the top of that list each year, was at the bottom of the list in 2025 with only 304 laps completed to Mercedes' 458 laps this year. So the big question, is there an issue? Is there an issue with the car, or are they just supremely confident in their car and they don't need to run that many laps?
Or do they have a driver who just really isn't feeling it, and so they don't push him?
Yeah, and it wasn't a glowing review from Max when they asked him. Max says, "Well, it couldn't be worse than last year's car." That's not a huge,
I do
thumbs
love that
up
about him. Yeah, that's right. Like, there is some Kimi Räikkönen.
There's some Kimi there.
Yeah, right. Like, just like, I just show up and drive the car. I hate you people. Why do you continue to talk to me? You know? I do enjoy that sort of petulant Kimi Räikkönen he's got going on.
I do too. Yeah. There was an interesting picture I saw making the rounds on social media, and it was a side shot of the RB21, and it had FlowViz on it on the side. Okay. And some people posted that picture along with a similar picture from last year, side angle with FlowViz, showing how much more FlowViz was all down the side of the RB20 last year versus the RB21 this year. And they were like, hey, you can tell which one Adrian Newey designed. They were implying that the one last year showed more air focused all the way down the side of the car and therefore a better aero device than this year's, where it just kind of hit the side where the barge boards would have been and then just sharply turned south and went off the car, right?
Yeah.
And I got to looking at that. Now, this goes back to, I don't know, just looking at a lot of FlowViz in my day, and I'm not an engineer, folks, but I saw that, and as a non-engineer, I'm kind of thinking it could be good or not good. But here's kind of what I was thinking about that. That pick of the RB21 was interesting because air, when it comes in contact with the car, creates pressure or energy.
Right.
And teams want and need that energy, right, from the air. But the longer it's stuck to the car or on the car, the less energy you can get from that air. And then it starts to drag down a little bit. So the idea, I would think, I'm no Adrian Newey, but I would think you want to take the air initially. You want to suck all the maximum energy out of the air before, and you want to dump it and get rid of that air before it trails off and the energy and pressure that it creates for downforce on your car.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I appreciate people posting those pictures. This isn't a dig at them, but I'm thinking, is that what I was looking at? What I was looking at was that maybe where the wheels have turned, the air coming off that front tire slams into the side of that body where the barge boards used to be, and that's all sort of beveled out where that air hits and immediately dumps down off the car. And I thought, it's just a hunch. I don't know. I'm not an engineer, but I kind of thinking maybe that could be it. I don't know.
I mean, sometimes it's just interesting that there's a difference, even if I don't understand the difference, right?
Yeah,
if there's
yeah.
something different going on here.
For sure.
I'm not sure that I can look at it and be like, that is a problem or not.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And if they hit the ground and their Aero's struggling and all that, then we'll know that the air probably should have stayed on the side all the way down the bottom. I don't know. But I was just thinking about that because, we did away with barge boards. So that whole area, as you turn a tire, the air coming off that tire hits the side of that body. And I think you want to take the energy, but you want to immediately dump it before it starts to become a negative impact, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I do think the most creative use of FlowViz, that award has to go to McLaren. That literally, they had to cover Lando Norris so that he didn't get FlowViz on his face. Yeah. Right? That car was they dipped it in its ankles into the FlowViz and sent it out on the track, right?
Right.
Right. A lot going on there. Maybe one of their sponsors is whoever makes FlowViz, right? FlowViz company, and they're just like, well, we got all this free FlowViz. What else are we gonna do? But there's a lot going on there.
They just got buckets of that stuff laying around. Yeah. I was also intrigued by the push rod versus pull rod discussion this year.
Always, yes.
That's been going on forever.
Because that's one we can see. Which
yeah,
is
we can see that.
Many of these things, it's I don't know, or you can't always tell even the how big the creases are, the dip, the waterfalls is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because of the color of the body work But push rod, pull rod, we can see that.
We can see those. We're not Adrian Newey. He can see air. I can't. But
I cannot. Yeah.
But the push rod, pull rod, it's interesting. That's been a flip-flopping technology for years. This goes back many years. And some teams, they would go push rods, then they go to pull rods. And a lot of that has to do with what the team wants from the suspension, its design, center of gravity, all those sort of things that they get around. But anyway, it's interesting because McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull all opted for that pull rod. Mercedes, I think maybe Aston doing the push rod. So that's kind of an interesting discussion and what the teams may want from their suspension. I thought that was interesting. So if I had to put a guess on this based out of testing, I'd say that McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari look to be in that order. Mm-hmm. But the RB21 is interesting, and I wouldn't put money on my guess, that's for sure, because I don't know if their lack of running was... It's good. Yeah. We're fine. We're good. Yeah. I don't think that's the case, but you never know.
It seems like a wasted effort. I mean, even if you were just going out there, I don't know. The idea of just we're good, we don't need to go. That just seems dumb, right? It's not even just overconfidence, I guess, right? A lot of bravado. It just doesn't seem, because why wouldn't you at least be because you always have to be thinking of what parts are we going to do? And especially because, you're going to have the flexi wings until Spain. So, and especially Red Bull that sort of had to unbuild, rebuild this whole flexi wing thing again. So I just don't see where they have really space to just sit on their laurels as a team. I don't.
You wouldn't think. You wouldn't.
Unless they've just 25 we've written already, right? We're at testing in Bahrain and they've already written off, 2025 for 2026, but I don't think that's it either. So I'm not really sure why they didn't run Max more. I mean, I don't know. I think.
Yeah,
the,
I don't know.
I had Liam out there a lot, but not Max so much.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where they are. And the Ferrari thing to me seemed, I don't know. I was watching onboards. I can't say that was the most planted car ever. And the other thing I was really trying to get my head around, I was looking at tires, trying to see if I could determine what the wear rates were of those tires. And, was I don't know that the Ferrari was that gentle on their tires. I don't know. I didn't get the impression it was. I don't know. Yeah. So if I just had to throw a dart at it, I'd say McLaren and I think Mercedes seemed to have made a pretty significant jump.
Yeah.
So I would say McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari.
Although McLaren does really well when it's really cold. I think that if I was McLaren, I'd be a little, or if you're a McLaren fan, definitely don't read too much in this testing because it was super cold. Like everyone was joking, like, we might as well have gone to Silverstone for as cold as it is here.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know, McLaren, that makes me, I think they're probably the losers of this in the sense that they know that, right? Like, I can pretend at home like, yay, McLaren, they're great. They know that this was not great for them in the long run because it's not going to help improve the rest of the races because the only race that they're going to be successful at is Vegas because it's the only place where it'll be this cold.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so, it's that tire wear rate and degradation and those kind of things, graining. That's what I was trying to keep an eye on, and those are always tough to discern. But anyway, it was interesting testing. Yeah. That's all it is, 3 days, that's it. And
I do also, I would be remiss if we left this discussion of testing if I did not mention what has to be by far the cutest bit of like Aero I've ever seen in my life. And I literally mean cutest. If you look at Stake F1's car, on the wing mirror, they put this like little tiny wing on the mirror. It's so cute. I'm like if Barbie had a car, that little wing is what would be on. Oh my goodness. I'm like, who was like, oh, I know what this car needs. Wing on the wing mirror.
Wing on the mirror.
It's so cute. So like, do yourself a favor, if nothing else. It's like looking at red carpet fashion. Go look at that little wing that they put on their wing mirror. It's like, it's perfection in like the tiniest little way possible. And
right.
I don't know if it's just that like they had concessions to burn. Like if we don't spend all the money, it goes back to Treasury. So quick, burn it, right? Like I don't know why this is what they did, but it's super cute and super props to whoever did that. It was great.
That's funny. Let's see. That was testing. So now the season starts. On the 16th?
Yep.
And Drive Survive comes out. What, the 7th? Yeah. So
because the trailer was out, and I don't know. I made it through like 3 episodes last year. Even the trailer, I was like, I don't know. I'm over it, I guess.
I got to be honest with you. I'm excited to watch it just so I can see Flavio Briatore.
Oh, well, yes. They did tease the Jack doing like, I own all of you. Every millimeter of you is mine. Like, you're right. That part, that will enjoy it. That'll it's already made a great meme. So.
Right. So if you're newer to Formula One and you're not familiar with Flavio has been around Formula One for a long time. So he was the boss of the Benetton team, 2 world championship with Michael Schumacher. He poached Michael from Eddie Jordan. And he's been around a long time. Then he ran Renault's program. Then they had the whole crash gate. He was banned from Formula One. Now he's back with Alpine. He's been around it a long time. So he's a wily old dog, that Flavio. And, he's not the easiest chap to understand from time to time.
Jesus Christ.
That's Flavio. So when I do that,
Jesus Christ.
That's Flavio.
Yeah.
But anyway, you'll get a kick out of learning more about Flavio.
Yeah. He has a thick accent.
Yeah.
And he mumbles. Right?
Yes.
Like I swear half my family mumble is the actual language they speak, and I'm like, we were all like, it's like we're the Burtons, right? Like Ward Burton and Greg.
Ward Burton.
Right? He was born in the south part of the house, right?
Yeah.
Like where did you people? We're all the same family, but mumblers. So I think that Yeah,
He's a mumbler.
And so with the accent and the mumbling, I'm just like, I don't know what you just said, sir. That's great.
He is Flavor Flav.
I mean, and it will be interesting. There's no way it's not, because he's just, I don't know. I think that a whole new generation will be. I'm glad that you get to experience Flavio as well. Like, I don't want to hoard that joy for myself. So.
Our Patreon supporter who's joining us live for this recording, Melton asks, who's easier to understand, Flavio or Steiner?
I think Steiner's easy to understand.
Probably Steiner. I think Steiner's easier to understand.
Yeah. He doesn't mumble.
No.
And not like, what? Flavio? All right.
Right.
So yeah. So I think that'll be great. And I think the reason why that's that bit from the trailer for Drive to Survive plays so well is because they cut to Jack Doohan's face, and he's just got like this very straight expression on his face. Like, that's what's going to be great. He's just like, and that has to be. I can't imagine being Jack Doohan just like, what is this? What am I living
What's
in?
going on?
How did I get here?
How did I get here? And how did this guy show up out of nowhere? I've been here for a few seasons.
Right. So I mean, I think we all have had that moment in our lives when you're like in a meeting or something, like, what? This, like, 22-year-old me is like, what?
Yeah.
This is what we've amounted to? This, all that work, and this is
where we are?
So
yeah.
I think Jack Doohan's 12-year-old self is like, what?
I think Jack is saying,
Get off now.
There you go.
Right? I don't know. I'm just saying, if Mick Doohan has to show up, Flavio.
well, there's going to be hell to pay. Those
better
droids
watch
aren't
out,
on the
man.
ridge by noon.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, this news
Okay.
I saw this over at Auto Sport.
Yes.
The FIA have signaled that for 6 races this season, the stewarding panel will include a 4th member, not just 3.
What kind of signals? Like smoke signals? Like
It's like semaphore over there.
1,
2, 3. John has a long mustache. The chair is against the wall. Yeah.
Okay.
MBS is crazy. Get me out of here.
I'm blinking. Really
Help.
long,
Send help.
Please
So,
help us.
Article 15.1 has been changed to state, quote, a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 4 stewards, one of whom will be appointed chairman, end quote. That's interesting. And interestingly more, it used to be a former F1 driver as the guest steward, but now it just says that the chairman will be a holder of an FIA super license, which is a little different than those held by F1 drivers. So, for the love of Pete, what is MBS doing over there?
Maybe they just can't find people.
Well, he keeps firing them.
I mean, right, but like at what point, like you're like, I mean, I don't. need
Dear
somebody that's-
Johnny,
Yeah, right.
you
like,
are a shill and you're fired.
You just don't want to be a part of that anymore, right? Like, I don't.
No. And he says, I saw a headline over the FIA press news area. There's a headline that, so their whole hashtag united against online bullying, or I don't know, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, the booing.
Yeah. And the headline, so they quickly crafted up a press release that all this negativity and attacks on social media towards the FIA is really hurting the talent pool because people don't want to work for the FIA because of it. I'm thinking, no. You don't get that luxury of saying that it's social media that's weakening the talent pool.
Yeah.
That's what they said. It's draining the talent pool. No, sir. It's you that is weakening the talent pool.
The beatings will continue till morale improves.
Yeah.
It's not like this is not. That's rich. That's
Isn't
rich.
it?
I love the ability to say that with a, like, how many times did you just practice that in the mirror before you could deliver that with a straight face?
You know,
Really?
it's
You're
all
gonna
those.
blame us.
It's all
You're
those
gonna blame
damn
us.
fans and their negativity that's depleting the talent pool. Really?
No.
It's not
How about-
you and your ridiculous changes and firings. Really?
Yeah, you're no talent ass clown, and it's our fault. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I don't think so.
Back it up, buddy.
So-
Nice try, though.
Yeah,
Nice
it's a good try.
But
Good
I
try.
don't think. Because the thing is that when it is actually something should be done because the fans are upset about it, they'll be like, I don't hear anything. I didn't hear anything from the fans about this. Oh, okay, cool. Sure. That's convenient.
That guy's like Happy Jack over there. So you ask what races, Todd? What races will have 4 stewards now?
Okay.
Australia, China, Canada, Singapore, Mexico, and Brazil. That's your races that will have 4 stewards.
Was there any reason why those races?
I think maybe it's because those particular Grand Prix are a little more challenging for whatever reason for the FIA to manage.
So these are the 6 you should watch. I don't know. What does that mean? I don't know. Like, I don't
know. Who
do
cares?
these seem, all right.
Here's an idea. Just get the calls right, would you? I don't care if it's 1, 4, 8, 12. I don't care.
I'm going to speak to stewarding in this moment about MotoGP. So those people who have watched for a long time. So Simon Crafar, who used to do kind of the Martin Brundle kind of job, right?
In the pit
paddock,
lane,
right?
yeah.
He's a former rider, so he would go out and do a lap. But really in kind of insightful, nice guy. And but he took the race steward job.
I wondered what happened because they had a guy named Jack down there. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jack Appleyard used to co-host with him, but so Simon Crafar is the race director this year. He took the job, and so everybody was like, "That's good. That's sad for those of us that will lose him as a commentator, right?" But there were penalties. And it was just like he explained to people why. It was just like a novel idea, like. See, Frankie, this is where you were being aggressive. Therefore, I had to penalize you. So maybe you shouldn't do that. Like, what a novel idea that there's somebody that is going to explain to you why you got the penalty.
Yeah,
it was just really
that's
funny.
A novel concept.
Formula One, maybe you could learn something and actually explain to us and to people why things happen the way they happen, right?
Right.
We understand that sometimes you make a decision, it's the wrong decision. We all watch plenty of sports.
Yeah,
that
it happens.
But you need to be clear with us and transparent and tell us why. It was just like, oh, this is so refreshing.
Right.
So maybe Simon Crafar can teach one of those people how to do this job.
That'd be good.
Formula One will have that same level of refreshment of oh, we understand, and it's maybe not going to be a disaster this year. That's something to look forward to.
Please, Johnny, tell me how horrible Max is.
Hey,
so
that's why.
The thing I did like they had Dovey in the commentary right before the race. I thought he was a wellspring of information. He was great.
Yes. Yeah, and very personable. And I think the thing is I wonder if they're still trying to fill that space because Simon Crafar used to fill a lot of that, So I wonder if they're still trying to figure out how to we still have an hour to fill before the race. How do we fill it when, Simon used to fill 90% of it or something like that. But I love that they had Dovey, and that would be great if they could bring more of the test drivers, riders in, bring in Aleix, bring in,
you wanted to bring in Caparossi. I know it.
Oh, I know. I do love, that was a great interview. If any of you, the podcast, the Formula One, the MotoGP podcast that they did an interview with Loris Caparossi that I thought was great. I do love Loris.
I know you love Loris.
So I think that's a great space. So I thought that was a great, and they should do that because I think the riders bring something to it, and it's something that now that Simon's not there, he was the rider, right?
Yes.
He was able to provide that kind of insight that you would get from a Jenson Button or a Martin Brundle, right, as a driver.
Yes.
And so you've now lost that because neither Jack nor Matt Beers are former riders on any professional level.
Is the other guy Beer Matt?
Well, Beer does he does the Crofty, right? He does the Crofty role of the race call.
Ah, okay.
But then they still have Lewis Sotheby. People are like, what are we talking about here? Doing it, and Jack Appleyard. But Jack's the roving reporter kind of guy, right? He's out there talking to people.
He's the Ted Kravitz.
Yes, there you go. Jack Appleyard is the Ted Kravitz of MotoGP.
There you go.
And so they kind of push Lewis in, and they really haven't found a place, it's like the Steve Matchett role. Don't have that kind of driver rider insight yet. So I thought it was nice that they brought in Dovey because then you got some of that going.
Gotcha. Hey, speaking of the FIA.
Yeah, exactly like that. Mm-hmm.
The FIA presidency. So speaking of the FIA current president, MBS, heads
Love that
into
guy.
it. Yeah, he's a real charmer, that
I
guy.
don't want to be accused as being the reason why nobody wants to work for him anymore.
No, I don't either.
Grace said that
It's
he's
nothing
terrible.
but
Yeah.
praise from here on. I don't, yeah.
That's right.
He heads into an election season in 2025. And I saw a headline this week that said that Susie Wolf is up for running for president of the FIA in order to get rid of MBS.
Well, I support that.
I know
support anybody trying to get rid of
everybody's going to support it because they hate him, right?
Yeah. Right.
I got to be honest with you though, and this is this. You know, I mean, I don't want to sound, controversial.
Controversy.
I'm kind of done with the whole Toto Susie power couple in motorsport thing. I've kind of had it with that. I mean, Toto runs Mercedes and she's running every other thing that, she bounces into. And I'm kind of done with that, And that's all we need is to her run the FIA while he's running the team. And then we got conflict of interest, whether it is or not. And then you got all this stuff going. I don't know. So I think there are plenty of people who would be great in that role. Alex Vert's one of them.
Oh, I love Alex Bird.
Yeah, Alex is awesome. Now, if you wanted a female in that role, I think paybacks are awesome. And I think the payback, do you guys remember when the FIA hired its first CEO and her name was Natalie Robin? Mm-hmm. She was there for 9 months and she said, I'm out of here. She couldn't deal with that, that jughead.
She was done playing Curly, right?
Yeah.
Why
I oughta. Yeah. Yes. And I think that's who you bring back to run the FIA. Why? Because at the time that they made her see, she was the most senior woman in motorsport. Mm-hmm. And you get a motorsport pro, and she's also a lawyer, or as my British friends would say, a barrister. So think about that. Motorsport savvy and a lawyer. Sounds like Max Mosley, doesn't it?
They also say lieutenant, though, so let's not give them too much credit.
They have a legit reason for saying that, and now I can't remember it, but good on you, Brett.
That's not what that word is, but okay.
It's not. I know.
But anyway,
I blame Keir Starmer. It's his fault.
There you go. I think that Susie Wolf, of course, because people know who she is, right? So that's always going to be like, it's like Jean Todt, right? Like, oh, I know that person. I know that name. So it's going to get
it's
more
name recognition. I get Yeah.
So you don't want that to be how that decision is actually made.
No.
And it's not like we have a vote. I don't get a vote.
No, we don't get a vote. But it's kind of like,
right?
why Susie? There's a lot of other people. And then you're going to put them and the whole Wolf power couple motorsport thing. I don't know. Really? And the other side of that is then you put him in a weird position, put her in a weird position, and then there's going to be allegations of favoritism towards Mercedes, and it's just a mess. You don't want to do that. That's a mess. If you go with Natalie, everybody's hands are clean.
Maybe I do want to do that. Keep Formula One on his toes.
Okay. Well, maybe you know why you want to do that? Because you love
controversy.
That's why. You love a good controversy.
And sometimes that's the best part of Formula One.
Sure is. Controversy.
If we get sort of a lull at some point, Red Bull dominance, we'll just move on to this, right?
That's right. They ought to make you the lieutenant.
That's right.
Of the
Formula
FIA.
One. That's a great idea. Why not?
It is a perfectly legit reason why they say that. I just can't remember it. Let's see. Oh, hey, guess what today was, Grace? Today is Monday, March 3rd.
Yes.
Monday, March 3rd was Adrian Newey's first day in the job, in the office.
Adrian Newey Day.
It's Adrian Newey Day at Aston Martin. They got his office already, got the potted plant, and now he's in there. Adrian Coffey's down that hallway, down there. He's a mumbler, by the way. So I got to thinking about it. He is.
The conversation between, I hadn't thought of it that way, but yes, the conversation between Adrian Newey and Flavio Briatore. I don't know. Do you know what just happened here?
No,
I don't know. I don't think
he's
they
a
know.
mumbler. Okay, so then, Grace, I got to think, so let's have fun with Adrian, shall we?
Let's do it.
So I thought if you worked at Aston Martin,
Yeah.
let's say you were young Grace, you were over in the engineering department working on CAD, and your job was to come up with a little wing for your mirror.
Yeah, for a wing mirror.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's
That would be my
and
dream.
you're over there beavering away at that thing, and you're all excited because everybody told you that Adrian Newey's going to start and he's coming, and Lawrence is walking through and pounding his chest, and he's all excited, and Adrian's first day. So I was thinking, what are some gift ideas that you could get as a welcoming gift to Adrian Newey based on his legendary career and his achievements? So here's my short list of 5 gifts Aston Martin employees could get Adrian as a welcome gift to your team, right? So listen up, Aston Martin employees.
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go. If you work for Aston Martin and you want to get on Adrian's good size, you can get him a welcome gift. One of these 5. Number 1, a tiny wind tunnel model of his own head. Since aerodynamics is his domain, why not give him a miniature CFD-friendly version of his own head? This way he can optimize himself for better airflow around the office.
Like a little chia pet. Like a little Adrian Newey.
Little Adrian Newey chia pet.
Who doesn't
I like
want
that.
little FlowViz, it'll be nice.
Yeah. And the next one I thought would be just fun. You could get him a Red Bull mini fridge, but fill it with anyone who makes green energy drinks. Right? It's a nod to his success at Red Bull, but it's got Aston Martin's green energy drink,
Doesn't Red Bull make a green?
They do. So you'd have to do you have to do Monster, right? Something.
Yeah, they're green, right? That's the thing.
Right.
But,
All right. So that would be a good one. I like this one. A copy of, quote, How to Draw Cars Like a Pro.
like some circles? Like
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Since he's famous for sketching legendary F1 designs by hand, this children's guidebook will ensure he stays sharp with the pencil.
Or like how to draw things with thumbprints, right? Like
yes, you could do a thumbprint.
Right? Like thumbprint cars, right?
Yeah.
Or people. Yeah, I think this would be good.
Now, when I was a wee little boy, we had these kind of long rectangle racers that were sort of a chevron if you looked at them from the side.
Yeah.
And we used to make Le Mans cars out of them and draw a cockpit and headlights and tires on the side.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I'll have
They
to
are the
find
right shape
one.
for that.
Yeah, I'll have to find. I had a whole set. I had the whole Le Mans grid. I had Porsche
That is amazing.
P3s and I had them all. Our Ferrari P3s and I had them all there. It's just what I did. I was bored at school.
That's pretty good though.
Yeah. Let's see. So how to draw cars like a pro. All right. Next gift, you could get him a tiny model of the 1995 McLaren MP410 with a fixed front wing. And why that one? Because it's one of his rare misfires. This hilariously bad car had an adjustable front wing that baffled the drivers. You give him a corrected version of it with a little note on it and say, "Don't worry, we all make mistakes."
Especially if that came from Larry.
If that came from Lawrence, it'd be perfect.
I think that would be what he should. I mean, that seems like a spot on gift
Yeah.
from him. And see, the thing is, too, is that if I was Adrian Newey, I would wonder, like, does he, like, maybe he just thought it looked cool, right? Like, does he really, like, is all the subterfuge real? Or did he just think it looked cool and I'm reading into it? Like, so then it's even a better gift because if you never explain it, you just like, here, this is for you. And then he has to try to figure out if you're joking or not, right? Like, what message are you trying to send me with this? Like, keep him on his toes, Larry. I think that's a good idea.
Right.
I like that. I like that one.
That's a good one. And here is for Fernando Alonso, a gift idea that Fernando could give him. A green notepad labeled Top Secret, Make Us Fast.
Yeah.
It's a custom notebook for his next big masterpiece featuring a playful reminder that everyone's expecting something special out of him.
Not so playful, not so playful. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah, tongue-in-cheek.
Remember why you're here, right? Like,
Yeah.
We all expect success, so
Right.
you're right on that, buddy.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
I think
right.
they think they should get him a cameo from Ron. I think wishing him.
Ooh,
Nice, Ron.
that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
right? Like best wishes at this new endeavor. I think that would be great. And especially because Ron, I mean, I don't know if you've ever bought a cameo, but you only give them like 3 sentences and they have to kind of like fill the rest of the information around it. So I would love to see what like 3 factoids we gave Ron and how he kind of filled the information around Adrian Newey.
Right.
That would be great. I think that would
I wonder if Christian's going to have a Harry and David fruit basket sent to him. You know, congratulations.
It's going to be the flaming bag of dog poop.
Oh,
right?
yeah, the
Then
flaming,
when he opens the door and he goes to put it out,
Stomp on it, yeah.
That's what Christian Horner's going to send him.
You could see Adrian falling for that, too.
Yeah, you know, right? Like,
he's linear.
No. This is a brand new factory. What are you doing?
Oh.
Great.
Yeah.
Jerk.
Yee.
And that seems on par with Christian Horner, right? Like, I think that seems to fit his ethos as well. He would be the kind of guy that would send you a flaming bag.
Well, why wouldn't he? He can get down with the best of them.
And then he's just like, oh, it was just a joke.
It is a joke.
Was it?
Change your effing car.
That's right.
There you
Toto.
go. Yeah.
That's great.
All
Good
right.
times.
All right, it's time for some Albon's Cats. Woo!
Controversy. Controversy.
You bet it's controversy. Oh my, Grace. What do you got for us?
All right. So, right, as we mentioned periodically through this episode, MotoGP started this past week.
Does anybody have anything for Marquez?
Not yet. Would be the answer.
No.
So, I mean, I think that's the big pick for the favorite is Marc Marquez this season, right? Now he's the best rider on the best bike, and we'll see. Although, mind you, Argentina, which is next, and then Austin are both his, our peak, Marc Marquez tracks. So
Now, admit it, Grace. You were sitting at home last year saying, why would Gigi pick him over Jorge Martin? Why in the world would you do that?
I think why
this is why you would do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, it's like, earlier I was talking about like Williams in my heart versus Williams in reality. Like Ducati in my heart, I wanted them to pick Martin. Ducati in reality, how could you not pick Marc Marquez, right? Like I know. It's like, I think you have to, and he's going to show you why. And I think that despite all the injuries, in all of 2020, I feel like he's right back to where he was somehow.
You were thinking, and if you're not watching MotoGP or you just started it, I mean, what you're witnessing, I mean, you got Lewis running around telling time I'm the baddest mofo ever been in F1, and don't anyone ever question me because nobody's ever had it like me, and I'm the baddest, I'm the GOAT, and all that stuff. And okay, whatever. Marc Marquez is the bomb. This guy has won multiple. How many titles does he have? 7? 8.
I mean, he has 8 total.
8
they
total.
Also count the
junior,
Moto3, right?
But he got 8 championships. And how old is he now?
Still younger than I am. I don't know.
Yeah, he's still young, but.
I mean, right in like Formula One, it's like Formula One, right? Like what is young?
Yeah.
Well, you're in your 40s, you're an old man, right? Like in the rest of the world, that's not that old, right?
No, but in MotoGP terms, it is, right?
Yeah, right.
I'm going to look it up because I think it's worth knowing.
He's 32.
He's 32. So he's 32 years old. Yeah. About everything on his body has been broken.
Yeah, he's like RoboCop.
Majorly damaged. Yeah. And major surgery and recovery, right? Guy has seen a lot and done a lot. And here he is back, looks awesome, right? So there's such an exciting story to watch. I mean, barring him having another accident or injury or something like that. But, this is kind of going along with the doctor. He hung in there for all those years and all those titles. And Mark's doing the same thing. And, it's a lot to see. Anyway, sorry to hijack your thing. Go ahead.
No, it's a conversation. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, I think that Pecco, I think
you can't count Pecco out.
No, you expect in the sprint races, like, wow, this isn't his thing. And then we got to the race and we're like, oh, this isn't his thing. So let's just put it down as this was this race. But They're racing last year's bike. We'll see if that continues. And, he's just going to dominate. And he had his brother on the podium.
Yep,
so
Alex in second.
What's not to love there? Although I did learn, they write, they're motorcycle riders, right? So they write their names across their butt on the leathers, right? Because when they're hunched over, then you can see who they are. If you're ever going to be in MotoGP or you want your offspring to be in MotoGP, give them a short name, right? Like Alex, very clear across his backside who he is, right? Like there's no confusing that. Same with Mark, right? Like give him a short name or a name that can be shortened. Todd, great. 4 letters, you can write that right across the back of your leathers. Everybody will know who you are. So let that be a lesson as well. I did also, I did also shout out to, there's 4 rookies this season, I think. But yeah, Aguri, I agree.
He looked great.
Woo, I know. And on a track house, which is what's like track house was terrible.
Yeah, he's riding for Crack House, so that's really good.
Right. So that was pretty impressive from him as well.
Yeah.
And I did, though, I'm sure the first race in Formula One, when I'm on, after we have Australia, often the graphics leave me wanting or I'm happy with them. But I'd like to take a moment to discuss the graphics from the MotoGP race. Again, the most exciting part of the race, the graphics. So I like that they've added a progress bar. So it says, so you have MotoGP, same thing like Formula One, right? You have the big bar on the side with all the riders. And so it says MotoGP and then number of laps. And there's a bar that just is a progress bar and it goes from like yellow, orange to red by the end. So you get this nice visual of like, what is 24 laps, right? Like how close are we to the end visually? There's this nice progress indicator. However, what I dislike is that they used to have so I always like to watch the dots. I do this with Formula One because I find it's hard conceptually, like what is 2 seconds? Mm-hmm. What is that visually? And so I like to look at the dots on the track because then I can be like, oh, that dot is that close, he's going to pass him, or that dot's nowhere near him. That to me is easier than just trying to like memorize like what 2 seconds is. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like what is a mile unless you drive and then as far as I can see is probably a mile. Okay, that's where that turn is, right? So anyway, they used to have in Formula One or in MotoGP this line that when they crossed the start-finish line, it like went down the riders.
Yeah.
So you could see what the gap was. Because they never show you the gap in times, and they only show you the first couple, but you could see it, and it would kind of go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there would be a pause, 5, 6, pause, 7. So you could see what the groupings were visually by this line going down when they cross start finish line. They kept it, but now it's just this little like cursor on the side that just disappears.
Yeah.
So when there's a gap, instead of the line just hanging there, so you know that we're just waiting for it to move to the next rider, it just disappears. This is terrible. Why did you move to this? That line was like the most useful thing when you're watching a race and you don't have, 7 other screens so that you can watch dots and live timing and scoring. And if you're just watching the race and all you have is the world feed, that line was often very helpful because all you're watching is the front pack, just like in Formula One. If you're an Alpine fan, well, you're never going to know where your driver is because you're not going to see him on TV. And if you don't have a line like that, you don't know how close he is to anybody. So I don't know who invented that. Who decided that?
I don't know. That was bad.
I didn't like that. Well, bring back the line. Maybe it was too intrusive, but I don't care. It was very helpful. But keep watching, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. And then one last thing. So, KTM, you may have heard, they're insolvent. They can't pay like 90% of their debts right now. And so, this is a thing because they have 4 riders. They have Pedro Costa, who's, was a big thing last year, big rookie.
He was.
And they're like, no, don't worry. It's fine. The race team is fine. We can't sell bikes, right? They're like, the inventory is like collecting dust at KTM, dealers. But, we're fine. The word they used was, this is just a pit stop. The CEO said with a straight face, this is just a pit stop for KTM. You're insolvent. I'm just like, I want to be the kind of person that can look people straight in the eye and be like, it's just a bump in the road.
It's a bump in the road.
It's just the wind. It's
just
a pit stop.
hashtag just the wind.
So I'm going to use that from now on. Like, my arm's falling off. Don't worry. It's just a pit stop.
Just a pit stop. That's all it is.
we're not sure you're going to show up to the next race, but it's
Just a pit stop.
I don't know why you people are so worried about things. So KTM is fine.
Poor Pedro.
Yeah, that's going to suck. Yeah, and they're like trying to, keep
Who's he with, Bender?
Yeah, Brad Bender.
Yeah, I like Brad.
Because they moved Jack Miller to Pramac.
Yeah, Jack dumped it.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Well, I mean, that is kind of, Jack's thing.
It is his thing.
But Yamaha has 4 bikes now. And
that's good.
looked really good in the sprint race.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
It'll keep it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, poor Honda.
Yeah, I don't know. There was like a split second, but like Joanne Mir, I'm trying to think, like I try to put this in like Formula One terms for people, right? Like, although I'm not really prepared for that, but it was just like his face. He's just like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
There's nothing. He's got like permanent Lance Stroll face, except he's not Lance Stroll. He's like Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's a very nice person, very chipper, very, is the kind of person you're like, oh, I'd listen to his press interview. Now he's just like permanent Lance Stroll face.
Yeah, now he came out of testing and was like, yeah.
Like, oh, no.
This is not good.
This is not good. Poor guy.
All right.
Win a championship, and this is what happens.
This is it. You ready for some no shit headlines?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First one. That was my idea, end quote. Lewis Hamilton takes credit for major F1 rule change he's been mentioning for years. This guy's on a bravado trip lately.
What was the rule change?
Multiple pit stops for Monaco.
Oh, what? It's like Monaco.
Okay. Hey, this is a cautionary warning. Former F1 star Roman Grosjean's wife rushed to hospital with broken ribs and brain trauma after a horror cycling accident.
Terrible.
It's terrible. I mean, he was almost burnt up, and now she's got brain trauma and broken ribs. A poor thing. I mean, she's like a twig, and there's pictures and her face all swollen. I felt so bad for her. That was terrible. Here's the thing, Grosjeans. Let's just back the extreme sports down a little bit, shall we? Let's just take it. How about we just read a book? Can we do that? Yeah. Just calm down. Let's see. Quote, it doesn't feel different, end quote. Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes exit hits hard as George Russell gives insight into the new season. Do you think, George, you think it feels different with the Lewis not being there? I bet it's a lot different, my friend.
Oh, my goodness.
They actually notice you now when you walk down the hall. Hey, George.
Hey, who's that guy?
Hey.
How long have you been here?
Were you here last year?
I don't remember him.
Do you work?
Have we met before?
You work in Aero, don't you? Oh,
Yeah.
in mechanic? Oh.
Have you always been at the factory?
Yeah. Oh, you're a driver. Cool. Let's see. And finally, I have a sound bite for this. I have to find this. Hold on. Let's see if I can.
I just realized that none of the Aston Martin gifts to Adrian Newey involved Mike Crack. There was no Mike Crack jokes in our gifts.
There wasn't.
I'm disappointed in us. We should work harder for next time to come up with some Mike Crack.
We do. We need some,
Newey.
like Mike Crackhouse.
Yeah.
Racing.
Right. That's right. Crackhouse Racing. For when he's at the track, he can hang out with Mike Crack and,
I like
If
it.
Dan Fallows isn't having it, we don't want you around anymore.
Right.
Sending you to the track with Mike Crack.
I used to have a sound bite from Seb when he said if Alonso's on a bus tour of Baku. Anyway, it was great. Let's see. F1 testing is stopped twice as a bus drives onto Bahrain track after a pane of glass smashed all over the circuit.
That was crazy. What's going on there?
Who got in the bus and just decided to go out on track? What?
They made a wrong turn, but I was like, thank God they're not at Paul Ricard anymore. How does that never
got
happen
off.
there? Where are we going? I don't know. We're just following the course.
I don't even see how the drivers remember where they're going at Paul Ricard.
I know, right? Like that was my first thought. Like, please don't ever send this guy to Paul Ricard. He'll never
get
make
off.
it.
He'll end up perishing out on track somewhere of starvation.
Yeah, you know,
Crazy.
but I just imagine, like, I don't know, like the people on the no, make this left, no, make this right. Now
go
you're
this way.
Now you're a car on the track.
Now you got to set a hot lap.
Yeah. Oh, buckle in, people. We're out here now.
Yeah, we're gonna go be doing amazing speeds of 10 out
What
here.
was I supposed to do? Everybody lean forward. you
Yeah,
know?
right. Crazy. All right. Well, that does it for this podcast. This is what we think about the news. You let us know what you think about the news. Huge thank you to our patron, like our friend Melton, who has joined us live for this recording. And you can do that too if you're a patron supporter at our Patreon page on patreon.com. If you go there, the link never changes. It's always the same link. So you can join us live in the audience when we record this. You can chat with us. Like Melton just said, good evening, gang. He's out here already. He's like, I'm not listening to this crap. I'm gone. And then, if you like the podcast, give us some love. Give us a good rating over your favorite podcast player. If you watch this on YouTube, hey, if you wouldn't mind, hit subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell icon. We'd appreciate that, as always. Share it with all your friends. That would be great, too. Say some nice things. Help us out, man. Got to spread the word. And we will be back next weekend to do it all over again. Until that time, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camera, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. I don't feel I've got to prove at all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it was like to drive a car fast, to drive on a certain circuit, to drive a certain type of car.